What if I told you the 2008 financial crash wasn't an accident, that it was more like a controlled demolition of trust, of livelihoods, and of the illusion that anyone was actually in charge? It was a slow-motion train wreck engineered over decades, built on pure greed, willful blindness, and a mountain of fake money disguised as financial innovation. When it finally imploded, it didn't just take down Wall Street. It took your neighbor's home, your uncle's job, and your parents' retirement savings. But the most twisted part, the people who lit the fuse walked away richer. If you were an ordinary person in 2008, you were probably blindsided. One day, the news is all about rising home prices. The next, global banks are collapsing, pensions are vanishing, and the stock market is in a nosedive. Suddenly, your government is handing out billions of dollars not to you, not to the millions who lost everything, but to the very institutions that caused the collapse. You've heard the technical jargon. Subprime lending, credit default swaps, securitization. But let's strip away the complexity. At its heart, it's a simple story of unchecked power and money. In the early 2000s, Wall Street was hungry for the next big score. They found it in real estate. Because in America, buying a house isn't just a dream, it's a national addiction, and the banks figured out how to sell that addiction at a global scale. They created something called mortgage-backed securities. The idea was to bundle thousands of home loans together and sell them to investors as a single, safe product. To keep this machine running, they needed more and more mortgages. When they ran out of good borrowers, they started lending to people they knew couldn't pay it back. Subprime loans, adjustable rates, no income verification, it didn't matter. The risk, they claimed, was diversified away. It wasn't. While this was happening, another, darker market was forming. Credit default swaps. These were basically insurance policies that allowed investors to bet on whether those mortgages would fail. It created a shadow casino where Wall Street could gamble not just on success, but on total failure itself. The more likely the system was to collapse, the more money they stood to make. And where were the referees? The rating agencies like Moody's and S&P were supposed to warn us. Instead, they were paid by the banks to slap AAA ratings on these toxic assets. Everyone was making too much money to ask any hard questions. By 2005, the housing market was a full-blown bubble. People were flipping houses they'd never even set foot in. It looked like prosperity, but it was just an illusion. Then, the defaults began. Homeowners couldn't keep up with skyrocketing mortgage payments. Foreclosures surged. The safe assets were suddenly revealed to be worthless. In September 2008, Lehman Brothers collapsed. One of the world's largest insurers was next. These weren't small players. They were pillars of the global financial system, and they were all imploding at once. Banks stopped lending. Credit froze. The real economy went into a tailspin. In a single year, Americans lost over $19 trillion in household wealth. But here's the critical twist. The bailout wasn't for the people. It was for the system. Trillions of dollars were pumped into the banks to stabilize them. But for most Americans, there was no relief. Unemployment soared, while Wall Street executives paid themselves massive bonuses with bailout money. The architects of the crash were not only saved, they were rewarded. This wasn't just a financial mistake. It was a moral betrayal. It revealed a chilling truth. Our financial system isn't built to serve the public. It's built to protect itself. Fast forward to today. The core machinery is still running, only now it's bigger and faster. To fix 2008, central banks printed trillions of dollars out of thin air. A policy called quantitative easing. It worked, if you own stocks or real estate. The rich got richer, while wages stagnated and inequality exploded. Then came 2020. The pandemic unleashed an even bigger wave of money printing. For a moment it seemed like we'd found a way to keep the party going forever. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. In 2021, inflation roared back to life, and the very banks that had fueled the boom were forced to slam on the brakes, hiking interest rates at a historic pace. And now, the old cracks from 2008 are reappearing. Except this time, the system is far more fragile. Corporate and government debt are at all-time highs, and the financial industry has invented even more complex, opaque ways to hide risk. So what's the lesson? First, Complexity is a weapon. The more you don't understand, the more Wall Street can sell you. Second, incentives rule everything. If bankers know they'll be bailed out, they'll always take bigger risks. And third, financial education is survival. You don't need to be an insider to protect yourself, but you do need to understand how the game is played. You have to ask, who benefits? Who bears the risk? And what happens when the music stops? Because it always stops. The 2008 crash wasn't an anomaly. It was a preview. The next time a crisis hits, don't expect justice. Expect a bailout. Expect inflation. But don't expect a warning. Real wealth isn't just money. It's knowledge. It's the ability to see the storm before it hits. If this gave you a new perspective, hit that subscribe button. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.